Research design. So what is a research design? So a research design is the overall plan or a blueprint that guides the entire research process. It's like a roadmap. When you talk about a research design, it's like a roadmap, and it outlines specific strategies and procedures that the researcher will use to collect, analyze, interpret, in order to answer maybe the research questions they have or test a hypothesis. So when you are looking at a research design, then you are saying, if this is my population, what I want to study, this is my population, what I want to study. Do I now use a survey method, or do I take a small sample of this particular area that I want to study, or do I cluster them, for instance? So whether you are going to cluster, you are going to use which particular sampling method. So the research design will help the researcher plan. And as we are putting it, it is a well-structured, in a well-structured research design, the researcher can conduct the research systematically, efficiently, and ethically. We shall be looking at the aspect of ethics in research as we go along. Then the key elements of the research design. So if you are looking at a research design, then you are looking at the questions or hypotheses that are intended to be tested. So a hypothesis, we had indicated, is an intelligent guess of what you think might be the issue. So if you are looking at maybe the effect of studying on performance of students, then you are assuming that how somebody studies will affect performance. So you're already thinking about it, and then you go in, you formulate a hypothesis, then you want to test it. Then when you look at the research methodology, the research design will specify the overall approach to research, whether it will be quantitative, whether it will be qualitative, whether it will adopt mixed methods. So that will also be a key element, research methodology in research design. Then the data collection method. So a researcher needs to be very keen and be very clear what kind of methods will be used. Like you have looked at the census when the government is conducting the national census. Then they normally have maybe clusters of how they do the census. They go to homesteads. So initially they do the mapping. They say if this is estate 1, estate 2, estate 3, or if this is in the rural area, maybe in the sub-county. Then they look at the terrain. How are the people, for example, settled there? What traveling modes are there? What hours will you be able to get people? And that's why you see the surveys are normally conducted maybe towards the evening or at night, because that way you are then able to get the people. So you decide which methods will you use, if you have a questionnaire or you maybe have a Google form, for instance, do you have an interpreter? Because if you are going to that area, then you want to interview or you want to observe maybe homesteads, family, maybe heads of that particular family. Then you do the mapping, then you decide on the methods that are now going to be appropriate for that particular process. Then another aspect of research design is sampling. Resources may not permit a researcher to be able to carry out a census, for instance. So they may, for example, want to take a sample which is a representation. So you may want now to come up with the sample and sampling procedure. So do you scientifically determine the sample that you want to look at? Do you, for example, use a formula, or do you use a table to say if you have from this number to this number, the sample is supposed to be this? Or do you now decide if you are going to have a maybe proportionate sampling for each proportion of the population, what will be the sample, right? So all that must be made clear when it comes to the sampling process and procedure and determining the sample. Then there is the aspect of data analysis, the kind of data that the researcher has or intends to use is supposed to be, it's important to have specified techniques that will be used to analyze that data. So the way the data is collected, you may have very good data, but if you do not have a proper way of how to analyze that data, maybe statistical analysis, thematic, or content analysis, then that data may not yield the desired results to answer questions that are being asked, or maybe test the hypotheses that are being tested in a research process. Then there is the aspect of ethical consideration. We shall be looking at the aspect of ethics in research. What is the role of ethics and integrity in research, what the law says, and what is supposed to be done properly. So ethical considerations has now taken a different dimension where, like in the Kenyan situation, you might, depending on which research you are doing, you may be required to get an ethical review committee clearance. Then you might be required also to get the NACOSTI permit. All research that is being done in Kenya must have a certificate from NACOSTI. So this is how serious the aspect of ethics and integrity is being handled when it comes to issues of research.